How's it going, vaqueros, and welcome back to the Shotgun Haven. Today's video is going to be a sad one. We have something we need to talk about that was introduced in Season 2 that we never really got around to mentioning much. I've seen a lot of comments that, people mention me in. I've seen a lot of things talking about it. And honestly, it's something I wanted to make a small video on because I really enjoyed this build, and it does seem like the build got nerfed. And of course, I'm talking about that crazy Hipfire build that I showed off a few months back. That was just absolutely ridiculous. Your Hipfire was so tight, you could effectively Hipfire out past 15 meters and still get one-shot kills with. It was a blast to use, and it was so much fun. So with today's video, I'm going to go over what changed, and then we're going to talk about if this build is still worth using. So let's go ahead and just get into it. So the build in question was the one where you basically used a laser, you used the choke, you used a bigger barrel, and you used one of the grips and tuned it for hipfire accuracy to get an incredibly tight spread that was not really slug-like, but it was just so condensed that it looked hilarious. Like the hipfire reticle just looked goofy, and it worked so well. And one of the issues with the shotguns in this game is that they're very inconsistent when you're not aiming down sights, and a lot of people tend to hipfire shotguns, which I don't think you always have to, and I think it's really good to aim down sights, but I can't argue that yes, hipfiring a shotgun should still be pretty good. And that build made it incredibly good because, like I said, you could one-shot people at incredible ranges without really having to aim down sights. And now people might say that that sounds overpowered, but you got to consider how tight it was. That it's something that really does take a lot of skill in my opinion, because you have to be accurate hip firing, and the whole point of aiming down sights is reduce your aim speed and kind of get a clear visual picture so you can hit your target. But when you're hip firing, it's not quite that simple. You have to be pretty precise with it, and honestly I thought it did take a fair bit of skill to use, as weird as that might sound. But that didn't stop Infinity Ward from nerfing this beloved thing. So what exactly changed? Well, if you look at the patch notes that were kind of snuck in there, this was kind of tucked away in there, and you might not even have noticed it, but basically there is an attachments adjustment section, and it says, fixed an issue with choke attachments scaling hip spread incorrectly. So the nerf to this really came from that nerf to the chokes. What apparently happened was that the chokes, like the Bryson choke, were helping your hip fire spread just a little too much. And so with this nerf, they basically reverted that to where it should be how they intended it, or at least how I think it was intended to be used as. So if you look at the picture on the left, you'll see that is how it was pre-nerf. Very, very tight. And then on the picture on the right, that is today. I went in and took this picture today, and as you can see, it's not even close to where it was. And I'll even point out on the right, I have a higher FOV, so it should look smaller than the picture on the left if it wasn't nerfed. But yeah, so that's really sad to see. It is a night and day difference, and honestly, I don't really like this nerf. I really wish they hadn't have touched it because I thought it was totally fun, and I thought a lot of people were having fun with it. It still wasn't like an amazing shotgun to use because you'd still get melted by SMGs at pretty much any range, but I do think it was a lot of fun, and it didn't quite deserve this nerf. But if it was unintended, I totally understand the need for it. Now the big question here is this build worth using anymore? I know a lot of people probably use this as their sort of primary shotgun build. Like whenever they pulled out a shotgun, they probably kitted out this way, understandably so, because it's really good. But it's with a heavy heart, I gotta say, no, I don't think this build is even worth using right now. Yes, it still can work, but you're not gonna be hip firing. You're gonna have to aim down sights if you use this build. And overall, I just think there's better ways to kit out your shotgun. For example, instead of using that point G3P now, focus on using an attachment for aim down sight speed, like use the VOK7 milliwatt instead, so you can get a little bit snappier and you can have your gun up quicker in time and not get shot while you're getting it up. Another thing, that grip, you can just completely toss it out the window. You don't really even need it. Instead, I would offer using something like the Demo X50 tactical grip because that gives you a better fire rate. That was the only thing that I didn't like about the other build, was that I couldn't use that attachment to get a little bit more RPM with my gun. But since it's kind of just crap now, you can basically get rid of that grip and put the Demo X50 on. You can keep the barrel, you can keep the choke, those are still great attachments. But no, I don't think this is the right way to kit out your shotgun anymore, and you're much better off kitting it out for aim down sight speed. Now, as for the choke itself, some people might be wondering, is this still worth using as well? And to that I say yes, incredibly so. The Bryson choke and all these other chokes still help your aim down sight spread a good bit, so I really do recommend using those. They're still probably like the best shotgun attachments you can use in a lot of ways. The suppressors are also good, but I think the chokes usually come out on top, especially in multiplayer, maybe not in Warzone, but in multiplayer the chokes are still god tier, and the Bryson choke is still my favorite of the shotgun attachments, at least when it comes to the chokes. So like I said, don't bother with this build anymore. Just go ahead and switch out the grip, switch out the laser if you want, and just focus on aim down sight speed and maybe use that Demo X50 tactical grip. Maybe even take off that barrel and use something else. It's up to you. But really, in all honesty, I just say don't worry about this hipfire build anymore. Just forget it even existed because it's not nearly as good as it was. and it's really sad. Like I said, I don't think it really needed that nerf. I thought it was pretty balanced in all honesty, but like I said also, I do understand that it was an unintentional bug, or at least that's what they said. Maybe they're just saying that and they just didn't realize how strong they actually made it, but I do think it was not really warranted, and I think that this thing will be missed. I think a lot of us really enjoyed that build, myself included. It's really sad to see it go, and more honestly, I'm just sad that it kind of nerfed the shotguns in a way, because it really made the shotguns a lot better to hip fire, and these shotguns are not really good for hip firing because they're very inconsistent. It's still possible, you're just not going to be pushing range much, and you're going to get a lot of hit markers. Trying to get gameplay while just hip firing was not really going super hot for me. I just wasn't feeling it. I just had to aim down sights and resort to other things. So it's a sad day. Well, it's been a sad day since the launch of Season 2, I guess. But that is my thoughts on this build and whether it's worth using anymore. So don't bother with it. Let me know down below in the comments, guys. What do you think about this nerf? Do you think it was just kind of unnecessary? Do you agree that if it was an unintended bug, they had every right to patch it? And that's just about gonna do it, guys. So I guess I will see you guys in the next shotgun video.